bit of a whoop-de-doo and saying that it wasn't going to work today, so now I'm just trying to troubleshoot it, but it does look like it's just said that it's going live. So you know, normally we start a bit earlier and we have a little bit of a hangsy. You know, hey, it does look like it's going. So yeah, kind of ready to go. I am alive. Glad that you got that newsletter there, Don, because yeah, it was a bit bad of me. I thought I'd updated the page. I had updated the page, in fact. I just hadn't made it live and then realised it wasn't working. Thank you, Ali. Glad that you're enjoying the lessons and all of that sort of stuff. Doing well after a year. And thanks, Jim. Glad that the strumming techniques is going good. It needs a bit of a remake, that one. It's on my to remake list because it's a little bit tired, I think. Oh, that's a nice delay I've just discovered in my Kemper. Yeah. And I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Relja. The Jazz Festival, I think I did see an email about that. If it's in Croatia, maybe. I don't have any time for overseas trips the next few months. It's really full on time for me, I'm afraid. So yeah, unlikely I'll be making it this year, but definitely in the future. And yeah, I can't remember if it was in Croatia or not. I think if that's the one that I was thinking it was. I need to adjust my camera a little bit because it seems to have got pushed back. Hang on. Okay, that's adjusted. So, hello everyone. Hello Anders. Hello Chazman, George, Steve. I can't pronounce the Jewish writing because I don't know how to read it. Rhea, I'm still not sure if that's Rhea, Rella. No, not Serbia. Very cool. Relja. Max. Steve. Chris. Green. Chad. Welcome. So the general state of play. This is like pre-show just now. I know I advertised at 6 till 8, but it's going to be a little shorter today because I've got something to do at home. Yeah, so we're going to do this little. This is just like making sure all my stuff works, basically, that you can hear me. Yeah, everything seems to be going okay so far, technically. And the idea will be we'll do probably about half an hour chat today, just general chatty stuff, Q&A, beginner stuff, whatever. And I've been working on a modes course, basically. And I've already got a bunch of lessons on the site, but I'm looking at tweaking it. So I wanted to find out basically what the questions that you guys have about modes, and I might try and explain some of them in the live session, and then yeah, that's the that's the kind of the run for today. And yes, I have set up my looper pedal today, definitely. Let's do a little loop. Make sure that's all working as well. Yep, looper pedal's working. So, yeah, should be all good. Everyone kind of well. We got Serbia. That was it. Sorry, mate, if you. Yeah, I thought it was Croatia. You know, similar part of the world. Cats in the Cradle maybe one day, but it's not. This doesn't want to become just a request fest. So the general rules are no repeating your questions over and over again. No song requests. Usually, I'll let you off this time, but that would be a grand idea. Because nobody really knew that the session was happening. I'm not sure which mods are around or which are going to turn up today. So I might end up having to do some of that stuff myself. We'll have to see. 2 to 3 modes to focus on. What would they be? Well, let's get into the modes a little later on. Curtis Hall guitar covers. I've been looking all day for the best guitar pedal, but I haven't found one yet. Do you know where I could get one from? There are many guitar pedals. I have, I don't know, probably more than 100, and yeah, it just depends what you want it to do. It's not just like get a pedal. The pedal should be doing something. Not sure about your problem with the Pacifica and your F bar chord there. They should sound the same. If your guitar's in tune, they should sound more or less the same. We've got Mark from Manchester, Slash, I think in a funny kind of away from France, John from Middlesbrough. Lady Writer is coming, definitely. I mentioned that in the newsletter. I finished learning it. Look, it's right. So there's the other one that comes up. Californication comes out tomorrow, and the solo the following week. And then Lady Writer series, there's 3 of them. 3 series. I filmed some of the bits, but I haven't finished the filming yet, and then I'll edit it. So that's coming very soon. What else? What other questions we get? What do we think about Gibson not making any left-handed at all? I didn't know that Gibson had stopped making left-handed instruments. That's news to me. I'm not a left-handed guitar player, so it doesn't affect me that much. But yeah, it doesn't sound like a very cool thing for left-handed people. Although I always kind of thought that left-handers maybe learning right-handed could be an easier route. I don't own a Klon. Well, I have a Klon. I have the new one though. If you sub me, I will sub you with 11 accounts. Really? Really? Oh man, the boys play, man. What a channel that must be. Dude, it's just like, I love those things. Hey, don't we all? I'm sure you'll agree with me that everybody in the universe is really excited about sub for sub. Anyway, how long do you think I have been playing guitar for? I've got no idea, Curtis. Can you give us an idea of what you could when you just bought a looper pedal. I've got a lesson on that, but we'll probably do some of that a little later on when it comes to the mode stuff. Thanks, Morad. Do you still own Les Paul? Yes, I have a Gibson Les Paul Gold Top 79. It's lovely. It's just in storage. I haven't had it out for ages. Morning, very early morning in New Zealand. Well done, Robert, for getting up. You deserve a medal. Beginner Songbook 2. Hopefully it won't ever come back on Amazon, because Amazon don't pay. Yeah, I don't get very much when you buy it from Amazon. Much better to buy it from the Justin Guitar Store, and it's back in stock in the Justin Guitar Store. So it'd be much better for everyone if you support little companies like mine rather than big companies that don't pay tax. What do I think about Squier guitars? Not very much. Not to say that I don't think that they're good, I just don't think about them very much. If you want advice on instruments, you're much better off going on the Justin Guitar forum, the justinguitarcommunity.com, because, you know, I know about the guitars that I buy, but I don't spend much time looking at other things. Yes, okay. Delay pedal recommendations. Strymon Timeline, best delay pedal around, I think. Expensive, but the best one around. Think of George Harrison as a guitar player. Incredible, wonderful, beautiful, incredibly talented, beautiful human being. My favourite John Mayer song? Probably Neon still. I think that's an incredible riff. How often to change strings? If you type how often to change my strings into my channel, you'll find a whole big long video about how to do that. Because it's not really how often, it's when they get a bit scungy. Try to keep the movements of your left hand efficient when playing scales. Tips to keep movements of your left hand efficient when doing scales and runs. Chris says, I don't want people to get upset when I'm referring people to lessons on the site, but rather than trying to explain like this to Chris, I don't have 20 minutes to explain the contents of that lesson. So if you type in minimum movement into my site, you'll find a whole lesson about that. Yes, this stream will be live on my channel later. I haven't edited the last one yet because right after the last one, like the day after, I just got back from holiday actually, and I've just been so busy that I haven't edited it yet, but I will. It'll be on my to-do list to edit the last one and this one. We're going to be looking at modes today, which might encompass some. I'm going to do a few interesting things to do with modes and pentatonics as well later on in that second half. Why the intermediate method book does not have nice spiral binding like the other books. It's to do with the size of it, but it's been discussed with the publisher, and it's quite likely that it's going to happen at some point. Hopefully, maybe the next few months. I don't know Keith Urban. I mean, I know who he is, but I don't know him personally. I don't know about your guitars there, gaming with Shivy, sorry. Can you give me easy chord to play? Please forgive my girlfriend, please. Is there a structure to your live shows, or is this a free-for-all? No, there's well, it's a bit of a free-for-all now, and then we're going to be going into a modes, specifically talking about modes and questions about modes, from beginner questions like what the hell are modes anyway, to possibly getting into using minor pentatonics in the modes and how you can get different minor pentatonics from the one major scale and stuff like that. I don't use any guitar humidification, Alan. No, I don't have the room humidified at all. I've never bothered about doing that stuff. Any way of getting unbanned from the chat? Probably not. Any plans on releasing a new solo album anytime soon? Not anytime soon. I'm trying to get I'm writing at the moment for a little trio project, but that won't be out until later in the year. Didn't think much about the Tasmanian Devil cartoons when I was growing up. I don't know how to play Rebel Rebel. New style modules, yes, there's a funk one on the way and a second blues one. How much longer before we start the mode stuff? About half an hour there, Sky Carl. Are you planning to do more Dire Straits except for the upcoming Lady Writer? Yes. Just not sure which ones yet. I think I'm gonna have a bit of a Chili Peppers thing going on, because I'm really enjoying the Chili Peppers, and I've been listening to loads of funk lately, and Chili Peppers have come back in my radar. That's not really particularly exciting for you guys, but it's probably worth explaining, because this will be recorded for later on. But different publishers, different music publishers, control the different rights to different songs, and bands like the Chili Peppers and Green Day, among many others, great bands, have their publishing with publishers that aren't friendly to my publishers regarding using their sheet music in my books. And because I think it's a lot easier if you can get some sheet music in front of you to learn a song, I tend to focus on bands and with publishers who are friendly to so I can put their stuff in my books, and also it's less likely that they're going to start pulling my videos and all of that sort of stuff. But saying that, there's so much of that, like Chili Peppers are a great example. I'm a massive fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It seems crazy not to do some of their songs because they're so much fun to play. So anyway, that's why sometimes there's obvious things missing from my songbooks. Why isn't there any Green Day or Chili Peppers in my rock songbook? That's why. So yeah, that's where it's at. Now, wah pedals are very different from tremolo bars. Very different indeed. Check out I've got a wah pedal review on the website. You might find that useful. I'm not planning on doing any more ukulele tutorials in the very near future. I will at some point, and I very much enjoy the ukulele, but frankly the lessons weren't anywhere near as popular as the guitar ones, and because my time is so limited, for the next little while I'm going to be back focusing on guitar, but I may well revisit the ukulele stuff. Bill, say yeah, exactly. It's unlikely I'm going to remember that question for later there, Bill. So try and ask me that question later, because it's a good one. Did I know Cecilia is not listed in my searchable list? That's probably because I haven't done it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I haven't done Cecilia. If you mean Simon and Garfunkel. Tutorial of Neil Young, Natural Beauty. Natural Beauty is a lovely song. I don't think it's a hard one to transcribe. I'm just trying to. I've had a go at most Neil Young songs over the years, but I can't remember. I know how it goes, but I can't imagine the guitar part in my head yet. Learned under the bridge the other day off one of your old videos. Yeah, that's a funny old video, hey. There will be more Neil Young. I've stopped on the Neil Young for a little while just because I've still not heard from Neil Young's publishing from Neil about doing a book, and kind of frankly, if he's not really interested in getting involved, then it's kind of difficult, because I might do some more lessons of his, but yeah, that's the idea. My dream guitar. I've always had a few dream guitars, and I've got most of them. So yeah, I don't really have a dream one that I haven't got, except for a resonator. I'd like a resonator, like the one on the cover of Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. Yes, still a fan of Pro Tools. No plans on Slash songs. Cecilia is in one of my songbooks, Grant, but it's not. I haven't done a video lesson for it, and the song list is only for the songs that I finished the finished the video lessons for. Any tips for overcoming nerves? Nerves are a funny thing, you know. I haven't generally had. I had a little period where I had a few panic attacks and stuff, and I found what was the thing called that I went to now? Not NLP. It was called cognitive behavioural therapy. I went to see a cognitive behavioural therapist who helped me deal with stage fright when I had a little period where I was getting a bit peaked out by being on stage, which wasn't very productive because I was on a big tour. But it really helped, and that kind of sorted that out. But I mean, stage fright can get most people most of the time. I think it's just important to try and absorb those feelings as being the kind of feelings that you enjoy, rather than feeling like they're something that you should be scared of. It should be, oh, when my palms get sweaty and my tummy feels a bit funny, it's exciting, not scary. That's kind of how, that's kind of how I feel about it. We don't need to do loads of song requests because I'm not really interested in that in the live show format. There's a request a song button at the bottom of my website page if you want to go and check it out. Robert Johnson style, it's not really my bag, so I'm reluctant to do that. What songs do you play to serenade the ladies? Well, my missus is, she doesn't, I don't think she dislikes playing guitar, but she normally doesn't like me practicing at home, and I don't think I've ever serenaded her. Not that I wouldn't want to, I just don't think she'd like it. Like it. I don't, probably wouldn't make her that excited. Are you Asian? What a strange question, Adam. Australian, slightly different to Asian. I mean, it's kind of Asia Pacific, I guess, so maybe. When am I coming to the UK? I'm in the UK. I'm in London right now. I've heard of Faith guitars, but I don't need one. Have you ever made a mistake playing live? Yes, many times. Made many mistakes live, many times, including some really embarrassing ones I might share with you at some point. I will be talking about minor modes later on. Started the revamp of the site. No, I've just started tweaking a few real little things. The revamp is big. It's going to be happening. Okay, there's a few people asking about modes already, and small F can't get. Seems to be a few modes questions, but it's not quite modes o'clock yet. Try and save your modes questions for a little while. What is your go-to song when somebody asks you to play something? I don't really have one, just whatever I'm feeling in the mood. I've got a really bad memory, so it tends to be just things that I've been working on at the time. Don't really know any Robbie Williams songs. I know who he is. Gunslinger, you keep repeating about these requests, and I'm not really interested. I mean, I don't want to sound rude. This isn't the right format for loads of song requests, because it just takes up space, and I'm not looking for songs right now. So. What position do I find myself playing in on the Strat? The humbucker useful in the bridge position. I was just using the humbucker there. It's really quite high output on this particular guitar. So if I'm on the split of the humbucker and the middle pickup, which is something I like, and I roll the volume back a little, you can get a really nice. You can get quite a nice clean sound, and as soon as I get back onto the back pickup, you get a little bit more kind of crunchy straight away. Steve Santa, sorry if I didn't mean to be rude to you. If I was inadvertently rude to you, it certainly wasn't my intention. Regarding shaking the guitar around, the guitar, when I push the neck backwards and forwards, it makes vibrato. So you can hear it without it, and then it's a really nice. I tend to use that kind of thing more than using the tremolo arm. I don't have a tremolo arm fitted, but it's pretty subtle. But does an acoustic guitar limit blues music? It's hard to do string bending on an acoustic guitar there, Sam, but you definitely can. That's traditional blues music was often acoustic, or mostly acoustic. Do I play in a band? We don't play live, but I'm in a band, and we do a record every year, although we haven't done one this year yet, because we've all been busy and half the band live in California. So yeah, check it out. It's called We Came as Strangers is my band. Last album was called Idem. When and where do you play ninth chords in progressions? The that's a big question. We're going to cover that a little bit when we get into the modes, actually, with the extensions of stuff. Do you recommend using a real book when you're learning jazz? Definitely. I listen to Slash, but not a whole lot. Gaming with Shiv, this is your last chance to not ask about that question again, or I'll hit the block button. Are you slightly bending the neck when I do that? Yes. And Jim Campolongo, somebody mentioned, yeah, that's where I copped it from, was Jim Campolongo, who's one of my favourite guitar players. Incredible guy. Do I need a pedal for Jimi Hendrix sound? Well, yeah, probably a fuzz pedal would do that. So yeah, it depends. Jimmy used a few different pedals, wah-wah pedal and stuff like that. The percussion palm mute you showed in Stand By Me video, how can you do it on electric? You can definitely do those kind of... you can definitely... I've got a bit of delay on there, that sounds weird. It's really, you know, it's not quite as... It's not got the same effect as on an acoustic guitar, but it's definitely pretty useful. Tips for Phrygian mode. We'll get into modes in a little bit. Hey, is a double neck guitar worth it, or just a normal one better? Definitely just a normal one. I don't think you need a double neck guitar unless you're Jimmy Page. Where do I live? I live in Richmond, which is a suburb of West London. How do I expand my musical ability? By practicing and learning new things as often as you can. Can you show us your skills? I don't have any skills to show off with, I'm afraid. Sofiane? Not sure how to pronounce that. Cycler fifths across the fingerboard I don't find useful. Gibson or Fender, both. Could you repeat the band's name? You just didn't get it. German speaker. We Came as Strangers. There's a site, there's links on my website. If you go there and click on Justin's music, you'll find it. Where do I go for live music in London? Usually I'm going to the bigger kind of venues most of the time, so like the Kentish Town Forum, the Royal Albert Hall, the O2. There's quite a cool one I go to, which is not far from where I live, called the Bull's Head Barns, which is kind of like a jazz venue, or the Half Moon in Putney. They do kind of quite a wide range of stuff and have some pretty cool bands and stuff. I'm saying and stuff a lot. I'm not sure what's going on with the and stuff today. I've got some lessons on different guitar effects, but that's something that I would consider doing more of. I have heard of Rob Chapman. Rob Chapman was a student when I was teaching at the Guitar Institute. I don't specifically remember him in the classes, but he definitely took some. He was in some classes that I taught, but it was kind of group classes, so it wasn't like a one-on-one student. You know, good guitar player. I need tasty licks to keep me motivated. Where are some good ones? I've got loads of licks on my site, dude. Just type in licks, you'll find hundreds on my website. After learning A minor pentatonic scale, where can I go next? I would stick on making sure you can make music out of the A minor pentatonic scale before you get too excited. I have a course that's going to expand on that a little bit. At the moment, it's not filmed yet. You know, there's a blues lead course going on at the moment. Well, there's another course that follows on after that. Yes, I've seen AC/DC now. Saw them last year at Wembley, which was awesome. Ice Cream Man finished with an E chord with that bracket around the F. Ice Cream Man finishes... I'm not sure this is the answer to that question. It probably means one of those things where it goes F chord at the end of, sometimes a blues will have like that, where it's F's very, very short before the E. It might mean that. I haven't got it out. In fact, I don't even know where my copies of my books are right now to check for you. I'm sorry. but I'll look into it and try and let you know by next time. Is it a bad habit to rest my elbow on my lap while you play? Yes, that's a very bad habit. You should stop doing that immediately, and I'm quite serious. You have a lot of knowledge about guitars. Well, I should do. I've been playing guitars for my entire life, and so yeah, it would be disappointing if I didn't have any. Big Secretary, any advice for erratic strumming? Yeah, stop being erratic. Strumming's got to be nice, smooth, continuous movements nearly all the time. So, I mean, all the time, unless you're a very advanced guitar player and you know how you might break the rules, but you definitely want to learn the rules first. You might find my strumming DVDs helpful for that, or go back over the strumming lessons I've got on the site. I do have a Marshall amplifier. It's a JMP 45, I think it's called. JMP 50. It's the last of the hand wired amps. It's like a late 60s, early 70s jobby. Should I start learning solos before I know my scales? You're better off learning scales and solos at the same time. Because if you, they kind of go hand in hand. So you want to be learning your scales and learning some set solos at the same time. That would be my advice. Which you'll do if you do my Master Major Scale series. You'll find that helpful. Alexandra, yes, I've been in Romania a couple of times in the what's it called? Transylvania part near Hungary. Travelled in from Hungary. Can you talk about C-shaped chords up the neck? Not sure what to be more specific. I mean, you can do them, but I'm not sure what you want to know about them. Tips on bending two strings at once, a half step and a whole step. That's it's kind of an interesting little something. So doing this particular bend, I'm just using my third finger to pull strings 2 and 3 down, and what should hopefully happen is that this string gets bent to semitone and this one gets bent to tone. So you go from it doesn't always work. You just need to stop the strings from pulling into each other would be my only tip. You can do it with different fingers. I haven't had much time to practice yet today. I still feel like I'm warming up and I'm feeling like my playing's quite sloppy, but so using 2 fingers can help keep the notes separate. Yeah, it's a good fun trick there. I've got a few licks on the site that use that technique, and it is quite an interesting one. Do I have a lesson on Led Zeppelin's rock and roll? No, I don't. Something like that. But it's been a little while. If you're doing my beginner's course, you learn about 12-bar blues variations, which teaches you to do this like that kind of thing. And that riff is just using those notes. You know, learning how to do like, you know, that kind of thing. And if you muck around, I can't remember exactly. I'd have to listen to it again to make sure. I think it's that actually. So just the little second finger, then little finger, third finger, second finger on the fifth string again, and then off. Something like that anyway. Good fun song to play along, and definitely one that, you know, I used to know the solo to that too. I'm not going to try and remember that in a live show, but yeah, I used to know that ages ago. Did you like high school, and what did you get involved? Wow, pretty random. Yeah, I guess I enjoyed high school. I'm not sure. Have you ever studied Frank Zappa style? He used strange scales sometimes. Yeah, I like Frank, but I've not really studied lots of his music. Yeah. The Ustream shows used to have a picture hanging on the wall just so everyone could keep asking you what it was. That's wow. Elio's been around for a little while. Wow, that's a long time ago. The picture on the wall stuff. How much time goes into preparation for a video lesson? It depends on how hard it is. So if it's a very simple song, I might be able to learn it in 10 minutes and then film the lesson straight away and only do 1 or 2 takes. But if it's a lady writer, it takes, you know, a lot longer to transcribe and learn and practice, because I don't, you know, a few of the videos I maybe don't play the songs too well, but I don't want to, you know, do them. I don't like doing sloppy lessons where I'm not playing the tune very well, so I tend to practice it a bit. So it really just depends on how hard the song is. You know, I've got it's another one here that you guys were asking about. Lots of requests for this the other day. Wet Sand. So I've just started transcribing that, but only really started. But that's one of those ones. It's not actually particularly hard, but there's lots of variations and lots of funny things going on. So that one might take a little bit longer than something that was a little bit more straight on, you know. Learned Hey Joe from you this week. Great one. Well done, Jackie. The Chunky Crisp. Great name. I got a dumb question. I play guitar and I can't get the strumming to sound natural and unrobotic. The trick for that is you've answered the question in your question, which is trying to relax while you play. So take a simple strumming pattern that you know you can do technically and really try and focus on being relaxed and making it feel good, right? Really important. And if you're struggling to do it, and a good way to help with that is to practice along with a track that you really like. And hopefully you start to absorb that loose feeling from that. So find a nice relaxing tune that you can play along with and practice, sometimes even without actually playing the chords, just doing the strumming along with the tune and trying to get used to, you know, getting a nice, you know, that kind of thing. So it's useful. Often people to go like, it's all stiff here. You've got to, you know, don't you know, really just nice and loose. That's what you want. Okay. Brazilian acoustic guitar brands, no idea. Is it bad that I only make my own riffs instead of playing people's? Ewan, just do what you love doing, man. If it's making up your own riffs, then keep doing that, and maybe you'll end up being a famous riff writer one day. That's totally cool. Just really important to do things that you really enjoy doing, I think. You know, life is short, and you don't want to fill it up with doing stuff that you don't like. That's how I think it's an important kind of way to think about living generally is doing stuff that you like, and that should extend into practice as well. A few song requests coming in, and that's not I know it's tempting to know that I'm reading the stream and think that I'm gonna, now's the best chance to put your song request forward, but it's in this kind of session it's not particularly helpful to fill the chat up with song requests, because I'm not I'm not going to stop and start writing down songs I'm not going to remember, to be completely honest. And I have a song request button on the bottom of my website, so you're much better off using that, because then it might actually get seen. Am I developing a lesson series on modes, still having difficulty understanding them? So JJ, that's where we're at. Okay, let's start talking about modes a little bit, and I'll explain what's going on and why I've suggested talking about modes today. Actually, I'm just going to start because I've got a burp and I want to have a drink before I start going off on this. Excuse me. Yeah, certainly have a little drink. No apologies needed, dudes. It's nothing. There's no serious horrible stuff going on here. Okay. So let's have a little chat about modes, and I'll explain what's going on with this video and why I've suggested having a live stream about modes. So a lot of people ask about modes all the time. It's a very, very common question, and I think one thing that's pretty important to understand is that you want to make sure that you can use the major scale before you start getting involved with modes, right? Just because if you don't know how to use the major scale and you can't make music with it, then trying to make music with modes is going to be quite difficult. There's a few ways of using notes from modes in a blues kind of a context that maybe you don't have to have kind of really mastered your major scale before you start approaching that. Now, I have already written a modes course. There's a whole course on the website, but it's text only. And what I've been doing the last a little bit over the last couple of weeks is refining it into a video course, so that's going to go along with that. It kind of leads on from my Master Major Scale DVD, which I'm also planning to refilm at some point, just because it's a bit tired, the quality of that. So I'm going to be redoing that at some point, and then it'll follow on to the modes thing. But I'm just trying to refine the delivery of the modes thing a little bit, and I think I've got most of people's questions sorted out, but it's really helpful today to get your feedback on what the problems are that you have with modes. That's really what I'd like more. I am gonna give you some demos and give you some ideas and try and help you out learning it as well. But really, I'm trying to get your feedback on what the problems are you have with modes, so that I make sure that my modes course covers all of those things. So in that line, and if you're watching this later, by the way, feel free to pop your modes questions in the comments section of this video, and I'll definitely be checking it out before I get into the filming of the whole modes thing. Let's start with a little bit about what modes are basically, and what the difference is maybe between modes and the major scale, and then I'll take some questions specifically to do with that. So the first thing that you need to understand is that within a major scale there are 7 chords. Okay, so if we're talking about the key of G, you might want to write this down. If I was watching this stream, I would get a pen and paper and write this first little bit down, because it'll really help you make sense of stuff. In the key of G, which is what we're going to be doing stuff in today, there are 7 chords that are formed by using the notes in the scale of G major, and they would be G major chord, A minor chord, B minor chord, C major chord, D major chord, E minor chord, and F sharp half diminished, or F sharp minor 7 flat 5, which we don't tend to use a lot in rock and pop, but gets used in jazz in a different context. So most of the time I'm going to be not talking about that one because it's not used so much. So if you have any of those chords. So I'll remind you of those chords again were G, C, and D, A minor, B minor, and E minor, and F sharp half diminished, but I'm just going to leave that out. So if you've got those chords in any order, the G major scale will sound great over them. So just to kind of demonstrate that, and what I often do if I'm doing this on a one-to-one with a student, I'll get them to play, I'll write those chords down, and they can play those chords in any order, and I can easily solo over all of those chords by using said major scale. That's and if you want to understand the theory of that, then you might want to check out, I've got a ebook thing on for sale. It's one of the few things that I sell on the site, which is called Practical Music Theory, which explains how chords are constructed and how the relationship between the chords and the scales, which I think is pretty important if you're going to get into modes, that you understand that stuff first. So you might want to check that out. If you're not familiar with using the major scale, then again, I've got a DVD available called Master the Major Scale, which will help you get to grips with your major scale. But look, just to demonstrate that to start off with, I've just got a little looper pedal here. So just let me clear what was on there before. So I'm just going to play a bunch of those chords in a kind of a randomish order, okay? But definitely in an order that I won't remember what I did when I do a little solo over them in a second. So let's hit the looper pedal. So maybe G, start off with A minor, D, to C, maybe E minor now for a bit, then a B minor, C, D, back to G, A minor, maybe go to E minor now, and I've forgotten the order that I was doing. Not really been any order, but okay, now I've recorded that into my little looper here, so it's now going to play that back, and I can use G major scale. Demonstrating. Right, that was not supposed to be like, wow, look at me, what a great guitar player I am. That was trying to show you the G major scale, really just running the scale kind of up and down, more or less, over all of those chords. And hopefully you can hear that it kind of works. And that's because all of those chords come from the scale, and the scale and those chords are intrinsically linked in what we would generally call a key. Okay, so it's really important that you understand harmonically what's going on, like the theory behind the relationship between the chords and the scales. It's really important that you know how to play the major scale, and that you can make musical sense playing in a key before you get into modes. And I can't really emphasize strongly enough how important it is that you learn how to do that before you start trying to use modes. You need to learn to hear what the right note is over a particular chord. So I've just said to you that those chords in the key of G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp half diminished, and G, the G major scale works over all of those notes. Yeah, the G major scale notes works over all of those chords. But some of the notes sound better than others, and this is where the idea of modes becomes pretty kind of interesting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to record G major chord for a second, okay? So actually, I can do it. I'm going to do that again because I can. Okay, so if I G major scale over this now, there are certain notes that are going to sound nicer to stop on. So whereas if I stop here, it sounds a bit sour. And I really want to finish on this note, so I'm going to backtrack for a second and explain how you can do this exercise yourself. Okay, so in the G major scale, if you just pick the notes that are on the 3rd string, so 2nd fret, 4th fret and 5th fret, what we want to do is find which of those notes are sounding good over the G chord. So I'll play the G chord again. We play this first note, A. Doesn't really sound great. Oh, this note really fits nicely. And this other note, you see, it really doesn't really sound very good. But it sounds nice if you moved to them. Now you can hear there that that middle note, the note B, was really nice to sit on. Either of the other two sounded a bit weird. They sounded dissonant and clashy. But they were fine to use so long as I came back to the B. Okay? And this is really what becomes interesting about modes, is really we're just changing the chord that we're playing over so some of the notes sound better, and we know already which the notes are that sound better. So let me give you another example of doing that. And now I'm going to play the same notes. Okay, this is the 2nd fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, which is just the 3 notes of the G major scale. But now we're going to do it over a B minor chord. Okay, so let me just clear that loop. B minor. Okay. Oh, hang on. So now we've got a B minor chord. Now the first note, A. It's not really happening. It's pretty dissonant. Oh yeah. Okay, now this note sounds good. This is the note B over a B minor chord. That's working, right? The note C. Oh, you couldn't hit a worse. Right, that's bad, right? So the A sounds cool. The C, you can make it work. Now, what I was just doing there was playing G major scale over a B minor chord. Okay, now hopefully most of you heard that it had this kind of little, kind of almost a Spanishy feel. As soon as I started doing and basing it around the B minor, as soon as I did hit that note, it's got this other feel about it. It doesn't sound like the major scale anymore. It sounds kind of Arabic or Spanish or whatever is how usually people describe it. And actually that would be, technically we were playing then B Phrygian, right? The Phrygian mode. Okay, it has that Spanishy thing, but it wasn't really. It was just G major scale. But because we were only looking at it over the B, it has this different flavor because of the notes that sound really good, the notes that sound settled. Okay, now I'm going to do 2 other things to help demonstrate this idea. First of all, I'm going to play G major, B minor, C, D. Okay, so just check this out for a second. Hang on. I'll just clear the looper again. Okay, so I've just got the sequence. The sequence I'm playing there is G major, B minor, C major, and D major. Okay, back to G major scale. Okay, now the second chord in that sequence was the B minor, but it didn't sound all Spanishy anymore, did it? Because I'm playing in a key. So when you play in a key, it's got a very different kind of a texture to playing on a particular chord. Okay, now all of that was just using G major scale pattern 1. I haven't used anything else. No, I was very careful about only playing notes from that particular scale then. Okay, so let's go back again and look at B minor chord now. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so we're back on B minor chord by itself. Same scale as I was just playing a few seconds ago. How different does that sound? Same scale. Okay. So that is all a mode is. It's exactly the same as the major scale. It's the same notes as G major, but when we segregate it and we're using it just over a particular chord, it ends up having a different flavor. And all of like a lot of people get freaked out over the names of like having an Aeolian mode and Mixolydian mode and all of this sort of stuff, you know, because they sound complicated, old Greek names, right? I wish they had other names, but they're the names that we've given to that particular flavor. So that playing the G major scale over the B minor chord where it's got that Spanishy kind of a flavor, we call that Phrygian sound. Okay, now I know it's kind of might impress your mates or whatever, but it's just a sound. That's all it is. So let's do another version of the same thing. So staying still with the G major scale, but this time I'm going to play it over a D7 or something like that. Just a little D7 funk. Okay. Same scale. Sorry, I hit a funny note. I let my ear run. Sorry. My loop's weird. Hang on. I'm gonna do that again. Nobody likes a slightly weird loop going on. Hang on. So, just the G major scale. Keep having this little slide into the F sharp, which I'm trying not to do, but to do these sort of demos where you really strictly force yourself to play a certain bunch of notes. But you can hear suddenly the texture, the sound of it is very, very different over that D7 chord. That it's the same scale, the same notes. Of course, I'm playing them different, right? And this is the big deal with the modal thing, is learning how to emphasize the right notes. You know, at that in the beginning there, I showed you the how bad the C sounded over the G chord, right? So if I was playing just over the G chord by itself without changing chords, we would call that playing in G Ionian, which is the first mode. And when we're playing that, we would know already, if we're playing in an Ionian, that we're probably not going to sit on that C chord unless we deliberately, C note, unless we were doing it deliberately to create tension. So that's modes. In the overall thing, it's just a major scale, but looking at one particular chord from the major scale and playing the major scale over that one particular chord, because it changes, the context of the notes are changed, and therefore it really affects the sound of what you're playing. So, questions. So I've just given you the rundown. There's a lot more that we can do, but this is kind of, I'd like to get some feedback now from you guys. I've got my pen. Well, I did have my pen handy. I've just thrown it on the floor. Loser, loser. Anyway, hit me up with some questions, and I'll see what I can come up with. I should get a whiteboard for this. Yeah. Well, no, I will have for the videos. Remember, this is what I've just done is like the massivest shortcut from my mode course, and really I'm just trying to get a bit of feedback here. So the actual mode course will have whiteboards and stuff coming up all over the place, and pictures of the scales and the chords and all of that sort of stuff. So using Dorian mode, the 4 chord makes the difference to the sound. So A minor to D major to E minor will give an A Dorian sound. Yeah, we haven't talked about that just yet. Teach a Mixolydian lick for hard rock. Talk about playing chromatically. Woo! This has got to a great start. So if I play D, C, G in a Dorian mode, would I have to change scale every chord change to keep it Dorian? Okay. Sorry, that's a really good question. Now I'm going to copy and paste a few of the good questions so that I can answer them. I'm just trying to keep your name in there, Guitar for Sarkin. That's a cool tag. Okay. Do modes work with pentatonic scales? Asked Rob. That's another good question. And I will get round to answering these in just a second. Like I said, I want to try and cull some good questions here. Where was that one? There it was. Please try and refrain from asking questions that aren't related to the modes thing right now, because I'm not interested at this point. I'm interested lots of other times, but not this second. Great explanation, but can this be related to power chords? Okay, well, I can kind of try and help you out with that, JJ. Okay, Bill Cunningham has a fantastic question there, which is probably going to be the one that I answer first, because that is a very, very good question, and I've got a feeling it's one that many of you would probably benefit from that. How do you use modes when you're soloing, i.e. not using a looper? Okay, very good question, Mark. Show us some pentatonic modes. Well, there is such a thing as pentatonic modes, but they're not very common. Does each mode have a unique major chord and scale combination? Good question. Are there fixed rules that go over which one? Yeah, you guys are. See, I'm glad I had the faith that you guys would come up with some good, clever questions. Do you think about the chord approach instead of scale approach? Okay, Raphael's got a good question as well. I'm happy now. Happy teacher is a teacher that gets good questions. Okay. Good. Okay, so there were some really good questions there. So let me answer these ones first of all. And the first one was, Bill asked, so while playing G major scale over G chords, we were actually playing different modes without realizing it. Yes! That's really, really important that you understand that. So if you were, let's say you were playing a chord progression that went G, C, no, let's do that one that we did before. G major, B minor, C major to D major. Okay, let's say that we're playing over that chord sequence. Okay, so I'm just going to hit that into the looper again. Okay, so G major scale. Hear that? Oh, it went a bit weird over the G. Okay, all G major scale, it all works, right? Now let's just look at each chord individually for a bit. What's going on in a second? It's the G, now the B minor. So little 8 bars on each one. So you can hear now the same thing. I'm going to play the same scale, the same notes over each chord. But because I'm staying on the chord for so long, it's going to sound a lot more modal. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same scale, G major scale, but you're going to hear that it sounds a little bit different now, the fact that I'm doing it over each chord individually. Okay, so here's G. So could you hear that? Particularly it's obvious on the B minor, the Phrygian one tends to really stand out. So it's interesting that when you're playing over a regular G major chord progression that you kind of are playing modally, you know. You just don't realise it because the chords are moving by so quickly. And practicing, it's a really good exercise to practice, especially if you've got a looper, because using a looper is a really cool tool for learning your modes. Definitely, I didn't have a looper pedal when I was learning about modes. I really wish I did. It would probably be the thing that I would wish I had the most. So hopefully that answers your question there, Bill. I think that was a good one. So Rob, I'll go to next. Do modes work with pentatonic scales? So let's just have a little see how this goes for the next little while, and just about how to explain that to you, because it's a very good question. They do work with pentatonic scales, but normally you would use a pentatonic scale as a framework and then add a few notes to it to create a major scale. So basically, I'm trying to think of an easy way of explaining it, because they're very strongly related. In fact, there are within every major scale. If you look at it, it can be quite interesting as a little exercise for yourself. More advanced guitar players might like to check this out. If you take pattern 1 of the G major scale and you write it out, and then have a look at A minor pentatonic box 5, and you'll notice that all of those notes of the A minor pentatonic box 5 are contained within G major scale box 1, but so is E minor pentatonic box 2. Okay, all of those notes are also contained in G major scale box 1. Also kind of sounds like the G major pentatonic in that context, but you also have B minor pentatonic scale box 4. All of those notes are also in the G major scale. Now, if you're just getting into modes, that kind of thing will completely do your head in, so don't go there, right? But if you're familiar with modes and you're looking for some interesting ways of merging them with the minor pentatonic scale, that can give you a lot of food for thought, that little thing just there. That's a big deal, right? That's some serious black belt shit going on in that concept. But yeah, you don't want to go there first off. A nice introduction to modes, though, is to introduce a few notes of the modes into a blues setting, because probably most of you are interested in blues or rock guitar, particularly blues and rock work really well with modes. Just to give you a little idea of doing that, if we have a look at let's have a look at the kind of a blues rock context. Why not? I'm not happy with my loop yet. Hang on. So what I want to show you is if we do minor pentatonic, so that's just an A chord, right? I was just playing an A chord. If we play minor pentatonic, you're all familiar with that sound, I hope, or if you're not, you should get familiar with that sound and using your blues stuff before you get into doing modes. But a really nice little introduction to modes. If you look at your minor pentatonic scale, A minor pentatonic box 1, you got 8th fret, 5th fret on the thinnest 2 strings. If you add the 7th fret on the thinnest 2 strings, so you got 8, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5, just that much. This is actually the G major scale, okay? Okay, just the top little, we've just added in 2 notes. I'll go back a step, that'll hopefully fill in something, sorry. The pentatonic scale has 5 notes, right? That's the penta is the prefix for 5. So A minor pentatonic is 5 notes based around A minor, based around A minor. A major scale has 7 notes, so we only have to add in 2 notes to get from the pentatonic to the major scale. So they're the 2 notes we're going to add in. But we're just going to add it here. 7th fret, thinnest 2 strings. Listen to the difference. Minor pentatonic. So minor pentatonic now. add in this note here, this 7th fret thinner string. And 7th fret on the 2nd string. Suddenly it sounds all cool because it's using this Dorian mode flavour. It sounds a little bit kind of rockier and cooler. I haven't got enough gain available in this current setup here to do the widdly. Okay, hang on. Looks like I've got to just step in and ban a few people. Block user, you're gone, dude. World Gamer, okay. You're gone as well. Anyone else want to get banned? Okay, come on. There's like a little delay between me and the thing. I know. It's my fault that there's no mods today because I didn't announce the show in time. But anyway, come on, bring it on. Anyone else want to get banned? No, I think we're good. Okay. If I spot anyone swearing at all in there, even if you're swearing at somebody who was, you know, being an idiot, then I'm going to ban you as well because I don't have time to sort out who the idiots are, right? So just don't swear in here. Anyway, so straight away, hopefully you heard that was a little different. This this Dorian mode thing, you know. And it's a really nice thing in the blues to be able to introduce these notes, these 7th fret in the A minor, in the key of A minor, the 7th fret on the thinnest 2 strings. You know, it didn't really work so well because I just because of the setup I'm using with the looper. If I the gain stages, it's kind of not very interesting. The gain stages are in the amp, so when I turn the volume down, it didn't cleaned up a bit too much. But if I do a little blues like maybe something simple, keep it simple. So minor pentatonic. Okay, now if I just add in this note on the 7th fret, hopefully you can hear that's got a whole other flavor going on, but that is essentially the G major scale, you know. And if you think about it, the G major scale that we were looking at originally tends to sound a little bit weird, but it still works over in a blues context. So here it's the same box. And that's still just box 1 of the G major scale played over an A minor kind of context, or an A blues context, gives it this Dorian flavour, which is kind of, it's a very interesting little world modes, and it's actually a lot simpler than people realise, but yeah, so hopefully it's kind of making sense. How do you use modes when you're soloing, not using a looper? Ask Mark. So, well, I'm just using a looper to demonstrate to demonstrate over a particular chord, but it can be over one chord or a few chords. The thing with modes is that you have to be thinking of chords individually. I don't really get the idea of talking about mode being in the key of a mode, because then you're just playing in a key. right? So I'm sure there are there are theoretical ways of putting that into a correct context, but for all intents and purposes, while you're learning modes, I don't recommend that you start to think of a key of a mode, right? There are circumstances where you might do so, but generally speaking, it's confusing and it doesn't make a lot of sense to think like that. You want to think of modes as being very specific to a particular chord, and if you have a whole bunch of different chords, then you're thinking of changing modes each time the chords change. So just then, there was a few questions as well from Ansgar, who ask about pentatonic mode. So generally, you want to think pentatonic scale, adding notes in to create a mode rather than using the modes of the pentatonic scale, because they do exist. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What do you think about chord change approach instead of scale approach? Landing notes and passing, I think you mean leading notes and passing tones. So, yeah, I think generally speaking, most people mature to learning to play over individual chords rather than in a whole key. So, if you play out of individual chords and you think, even if I'm playing a regular blues, a standard 12-bar blues, I'm still very aware of what the notes are that I'm playing and the context that they hold, rather than it being, I don't play just the minor pentatonic over the whole blues thing very often, unless I'm trying to emulate somebody who played that way. I'm much more likely to be thinking, oh, we're on the A chord. Well, I try and avoid thinking at all when I'm improvising, but if I'm demonstrating it, I'd be thinking that I'm on the A, and then when it moves to D, then I'd be thinking or hopefully hearing a whole bunch of different sounds that are relative to that specific chord. It really helps if you're playing over chords individually, even in a blues. So if we're playing over the A, so you can hear there, hopefully you can hear that there's, oh God, have we got idiots in it? I really miss you. I miss you, moderators. Yeah, that guy's banned. Okay, guys, don't. Okay. Anyway, back to where I was. If you hopefully, if you listen back to it or rewind the show a little bit, if you're watching it there, hopefully you can hear that there are chord changes going on, and that's because when I'm playing a solo, I'm thinking about the chord changes. So when it's gone from the A chord to the D, okay, I'm thinking D sounds. By thinking of those, thinking of the chord itself, you can really get I always think of it like you're playing with the band instead of on top of the band. If you're just playing out of a scale and you're not really listening or paying attention to what everyone else is doing, you're very much, you're in your own little world. You're thinking about your stuff, and music's bigger than that. The listener hears what you're doing over what everyone else is doing. So I think it's important to try and keep that in mind. And if you play off of the chord changes, it's that's kind of where I think it's at. What's your name said, does each mode have a unique chord and major scale combination. Yes, so each mode has a parent chord. Again, if you check out my music theory pack, you'll find that you'll get a better understanding of how the chord is formed. And when you understand how a chord is formed from a scale, you start to see the link between the chords and the scales, because chords and scales are intrinsically linked. You don't have one without the other. They're not separate things, and I think that's one of those areas where having a little bit of music theory can really help you put those two things together in a way that are, that are a good way to do, good way to work. Michael has asked, but D major, and somebody else that says, what do you mean by D sounds exactly? Where is D on the fretboard? Notes that make up the D chord. Yeah, so I'm kind of I'm targeting notes that make up the D chord, or I might change. If I'm playing a blues, I'm playing the A7. I might be playing A minor pentatonic. I might be playing A Dorian. I might be playing A Mixolydian, because it's not always just one choice. There's a few choices sometimes, and they have a different effect, a different tonal quality. In fact, I can probably do a little demonstration on that. Okay, let me hang on. Here we go. Let me have it. See if I can demo this for you. Okay, so what I'm playing there is just an A minor. Okay, just an A minor chord. So of course A minor pentatonic will work. Okay, now I can also play G major scale, which will give it a sound like it's a Dorian sound. Okay, and I'm going to use G major scale here. Okay, so that was playing the G major scale over the A minor. Now if I played F major scale over that A minor, it's going to have that Phrygian sound. Okay, still the same chord. So now I'm going to play F major. Sorry. Okay, that was F major scale over still an A minor chord. I could also play C major scale, which would make it an A Dorian sound, an Aeolian sound. That's the sound of the Aeolian is this. Okay, so that one, the Aeolian mode somebody put up there sounds like Santana. Yeah, that's a big thing for him, is using that note. You get it a lot in box one. Okay, so there's it's a lot to take in. I'm moving pretty fast, and like I said, the course that I'm doing extends this of over a lot of different things. So does this work either way? Would an A major scale over a G major chord become the... No, it doesn't work the other way around. No, so you have to learn the different modes in order. Again, if you look on the website, you'll find you'll find a series of lessons that explain modes. There's two particular ways. You can look at them as in a series or in parallel, and I'd recommend looking at them in both forms, really, to be honest. Yeah, I think I've covered a whole lot of stuff, so I think it's about time for some more questions. I think I got through. Rock ask, actually, that's another good question. Are there fixed rules of which notes go over each chord in different positions? And the answer to that is no, because it's really important to realize that when you're in different positions, I call them patterns rather than positions, because position 2 for me is around the 2nd fret, so I don't like to call something position 2. I call it pattern 2, and I think you're referring to patterns, but within each different pattern, the notes are the same. So if I play in pattern 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, it's the same notes. Right? Hopefully you could hear that no matter what pattern I was playing, it was the same note. So the treatment of the notes would be the same in every pattern. Just where any particular note falls within the pattern, like what finger plays it, would be different in each pattern. So sometimes the finger that you use for a particular note lends itself to doing particular things, but it shouldn't. It's the truth that it kind of does, you know. How do you recognize which notes work over each chord so quickly? So, from Brando. Well, I mean, I've been doing this stuff for quite a few years now. I've been using modes for at least 20 years. So I'm fairly familiar with what mode would fit over what chord, but I mostly let my ear do the work these days. I tend to not try to think, or in fact I try to consciously stop myself from thinking about stuff like that, because I really want to let my ear control what I play, because when it comes to the real world, I'm more interested in what my ear's got to say than what my brain's got to say, because sometimes you play things that are wrong theoretically, but they sound cool still. And if I'm trying to express myself as an artist, then I'm less bothered about what should be, and I just want to get out whatever is in, whatever I'm hearing, kind of thing. So I always hear that Mixolydian is especially good for blues. Can you play an example? So Mixolydian and Dorian are the two that get used for blues. Mixolydian is the one that fits perfectly over a dominant 7th chord. If we... Hang on, let me just delete that other loop. Not happy with that loop, sorry. Hang on. So if I'm playing over the blues like that and I want to look at the Mixolydian mode, the major scale that would work over that would create a Mixolydian would be D major scale. Okay, so if I play D major scale, it sounds a bit weird. So I need to accent the right notes from it. And now I'm playing in a way that makes sense. Now, the one thing about using Mixolydian in blues is that generally me and most of the guys that I really like that use Mixolydian a lot, like your Robin Ford, Larry Carlton kind of guitar players, tend to mix in a little bit of the flat third as well. Just if I go bit like... Doesn't sound bluesy enough, but going... Adding that flat third into the Mixolydian mode tends to sound a lot better, for me, anyway. So I think that's... Using the Mixolydian mode there is... Don't think... the correct notes would be D major scale played over an A7 chord will give you the effect of a Mixolydian mode, which is the correct scale to play over an A7 chord. However, if you think of it like it's D, and this is actually a really good example, if I play the D major scale, if I think D, okay, over that blues, right? I mean, D is the really bad note over an A7. It just sounds really bad. You want to go, the note one lower is the nice. And if you like, that's kind of a demo of why we have modes at all. Because if I'm playing an A Mixolydian, I know that I'm using the notes from the D major scale, but I already know which are the notes that I'm going to be targeting, which are the notes I'm going to stop on that are going to sound good, as opposed to the other ones, okay? That if I end up targeting the note D, it's going to sound pretty rough. So, okay, I'm really sorry, Vink, but you keep on asking for this song, and it's just getting a bit annoying for everyone. So bye bye. Sorry. Okay. Give some tips on the harmonic minor modes. Okay, harmonic minor modes. So this idea of having different modes from the major scale. The major scale modes are really useful. Modes of the harmonic minor scale, I don't use ever. I've might have used them a few times years and years ago when I was trying to explore like Malmsteen type neoclassical rock music, which I was never very good at, by the way. But I was looking at learning some of his. Well, I did learn a few of his tunes, I think, in my teens. But anyway, he uses some of those the modes of the harmonic minor scale. The melodic minor scale has a couple of interesting modes, the Lydian flat 7 and the altered scale or superlocrian mode. If you're new to modes, don't even go there, and if you have to ask about how they work, then I'd kind of suggest that you're maybe not ready for it. Yeah, I would recommend getting really handy with normal major scale modes first, and by the time you've got through that, you'll probably understand why we might use modes of the melodic minor scale. I don't use any of the modes of the harmonic minor scale, so I don't really want to talk about that. What it's really about, a lot of time. Okay, Calvin, it's a pretty, modes are a pretty big thing, you know. It took me a long time to understand them, and it's one of those things that the deeper you understand them, the simpler they become. So for me, modes are just so simple, and that's one of the reasons why it's important for me to do sessions like this, where I'm talking to you and getting questions, because it reminds me what the things were that I struggled with when I was trying to get my head around how they worked as well, you know. Taylor, using modes in 3-note string scales is exactly the same as using them in normal scales, so it doesn't make any difference. If I'm playing in G major scale or whatever, I've got no distinction between playing 3-note string scales or regular 5-pattern system. They're just notes, and it is just a different way of a different finger to play them with, you know. Sorry, thanks for the great demo. Yeah, well, using a looper is a really good idea, guys. It's an important practice tool, I think. I wish I had one when I was, and just in Mark saying, stop saying it happens. I'm sorry. I'm thinking. You're very welcome, Bic Secretary, and thanks for the thanks, Paula. I'm close to finishing, actually, but I'll try and take a few questions. Nicola asks, why is Locrian mode the least used, or Locrian? Not sure which the correct one is. Locrian mode is used least because the chord that it fits over, which is the minor 7 flat 5 chord, is used rarely. And when you do find songs like jazz songs, particularly where you might use the Locrian mode or Locrian mode, there's another mode that works to my ear better, which is the Locrian natural second, which is a mode of the melodic minor scale. It's just like I wouldn't be going there. It's just not used very much because it doesn't sound great. Okay. Can I play all of the chords of a key in the same quality? For example, play all the chords in A major as dominant ninth chords. You could, but it wouldn't. You would have to change. You'd be changing key each time you changed chord. Again, that practical music theory will help you understand that one. Matthew, there's already a course on modes on the website, but it's text only. So I'm rejigging it and going to add a bunch of video lessons in the near future. My favourite mode is probably the Mixolydian mode. Okay, Michael, glad you liked the lesson. It's not a modes question. I might do some more Bowie at some point. And the neck method, rather than being restricted to the standard pattern, demonstrates soloing through a chord shapes around the neck method rather than being restricted to the standard pattern. Don't really understand your question, sorry Taylor. Have I used an 8 string? No. What's your favourite mode? That one again. I did mention the modal notes added to the major and the minor pentatonic. Well, I did it to the minor pentatonic, yeah, so you'll have to rewind on that. How do you know the difference between the major and minor pentatonic, since the positions are similar but the roots are different? Okay, so you could think of the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic of modes of each other. So the minor pentatonic is played over minor chords, but if you were playing it over major chords, it's the same notes, but it sounds very different. But it's the same note, so it's kind of the same thing. You could think of the minor pentatonic and the major pentatonic as modes of each other. They are, I guess, technically as well, but you know, that's how that works. Johnny, I think your question will be answered looking at the modes course, because I don't exactly understand the question, but the formulas are all on the website. Are modes associated with particular music style genres associated with individual artists? There are definitely artists that use some modes more than others. Santana uses the Aeolian mode. Joe Satriani uses, well, he explores moving from one mode to another mode in a thing he calls pitch axis. But he's done a lot of his great songs. What's the song called? What's the Joe Satriani? Because it's a great example of the Lydian mode. What's the Satriani song that goes? That, whatever that song is, that's a really good, probably a best example ever of using the Lydian mode. Both the melody and the harmony really kind of bring that out, you know. So that's one of his. That would be one of his particular things. You know, most handy guitar players would be using most of the modes, or at least the kind of the Dorian mode, Mixolydian mode, often, particularly in blues. Lydian gets used a lot in rock more because it's that kind of a thing. So Uncle Jeff asks, are there any modes that use harmonics? I'm not really. All of the modes would use. You could use harmonics in any mode. I think I gave you some examples of guitar players using the modes. Most guitar players would be using modes in one form of another or another. They might not even know that they were doing it, but they would be. Crushing Day. Well done, Garrett, for naming that the Satriani thing. Is there a mnemonic to remember the relative modes? You could make one up, but I haven't got one to give you. I don't have the SG anymore. Any modes to avoid, a bit like certain keys with lots of sharps and flats? Not really. The Locrian mode doesn't get used very often. The Phrygian mode is very specific in how you can use it. So you generally, for me anyway, and most kind of blues rock guitar players would be using the Dorian mode and the Mixolydian mode more than the other ones. Okay. No question here. Just wanted to thank you. Well, thank you, Hackanon. Appreciate the good vibes, and thanks to the other guys that have just seconded it. Can't speak properly today. So I am about done, guys. Today, I know that the normal thing says that I finish half an hour later, but yeah, I've got something on at 8, so I have to get myself back home. So thank you very much for coming along. I hope this was really helpful for the mode stuff. So if you have any further questions on modes, pop them in the description here under the description, the comment section of this video, because yeah, like I said, I'm working on the modes course at the moment. It's really good to get your feedback on the things that you struggle with. We got some great questions there that I'll make sure I incorporate those kind of things into the modes course. Yeah, thank you very much for coming along. Have yourselves a great rest of your weekend. There's no live show next Saturday, but there will be a live show the following Saturday. Okay, so I just can't seem to manage to get every week going on, because I've got lots of other stuff in the diary at the moment that's eating up time. Mostly it's kind of personal stuff and meeting up with friends and things and concerts and stuff, but it's yeah, I'm gonna stick with doing these as regularly as I can, but I think it's probably more likely to be twice a month moving forward, like every 2 weeks. That's the idea. So again, thank you so much for coming along, and have a good one. I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.